for good hair. All right, number 9. So this is me. That's the category, me. Tanis Leonhardi. I'm not doing full names on all of this. I'm just doing abbreviated names. So this is me. Yeah, because the Fantastic 14, the concept of the Fantastic 14, it has to include the perspective of the person making the list. Otherwise, it's invalid as the Fantastic 14 thing. All right, up next. So there's 4 of these. It's going to be 10 through 13. People I miss. So this is 10 through 13. All right. Guin Collins. So she was my geology field camp bunkmate. Love her, miss her. Number 11 is Clos. So he was my bestie from when I lived in South Africa. So we met, I was walking back from the grocery store and he kind of approached me and we started talking, we hit it off, exchanged numbers, we became friends and friends with benefits. So that means we made sweet, sweet love to each other in the less than 5 months that I was there. We did it 366 times. He is alpha, or was alpha, however one wants to phrase it or thinks about friends with benefits. Meaning we made face-to-face, belly-to-belly love with him on top of me. So we did that 366 times. In the less than 5 months. I saved up a bunch of money to live in Africa, and we're not so discreet in public. We'll throw that in there. We were not so discreet in public, which is like a way of saying there might be documentation. Okay. Anyway, so I saved up a bunch of money before I went to Africa. So how did we do it 366 times? I saved up a bunch of money so I didn't have to work when I was living in South Africa. So I had compared to the 5 years, so I went when I was 19. I started working when I was 14, and I'd been saving to go to Africa for a long time. I had a whole bunch of free time compared to working multiple jobs. So he was my free time. Like, your son's, it's friends with benefits, okay? Like, yeah. Anyway, so, oh, and what were we like in public? So, like, we went out to a club, and I ordered 3 shots of pure premium Russia vodka. None of that, none of that dirty American imitator, kind of crappy vodka. And I did 3 shots back to back to back at the bar with no chaser, no water. And he said it was the hottest thing he'd ever seen, at least in a club. So yeah, that's kind of like what we are like in public. Or were like in public. This was back in Africa, so like a decade ago, before he ever went to the Olympic Games or anything like that. So then up next, so that was number 11, if I'm remembering this correctly. Number 12 is Amber Heard. So we kicked it off in person. I'm gonna call her the one true king. Why? Because I am asexual and she is bisexual, and we actually got along. So like asexuals have, in my experience, so from my life experience, we kind of get discriminated against by like LGBT because we're part of the community, but for some reason people don't like us. And so she's bisexual, but we got along, and so it's kind of like they're not all bad, even if that's where I tend to receive discrimination from, kind of thing. historically. That doesn't mean it'll be the same in the future. I think partially heterosexuals are just we're conditioned to accept people that were different. So it was kind of like a sad thing. So it was like, that was like a turning point of, hey, look, we're accepted by others in the same community. Brooks Curry, same community being non-heterosexuals. So up next is Brooks Curry. So he who inspires me. Sometimes inspiration can be strong enough that it does lead to becoming friends and becoming friends with benefits. So kind of like with Chad the Clos, only this is far more recent. So like with the 2022 Southeastern Conference Championships and 2022 NCAA Championships, anytime he won a race, we would try to do it at least 6 times that night. We'll just leave it at that. He is alpha, so he's on top of me. We're face to face, belly to belly, and he's on top. That's kind of how it works. Yeah. Well, not kind of. That's, yeah. And he inspires me. So, like, keeping objectivity and being professional and writing about him means pushing through a power outage. And that inspires me to go on a camping trip in the backyard later. So there's, like, I think friends with benefits, it's a really good pairing if objectivity and professionalism, when, like, for me as a writer writing about these people, if I can maintain that, it's a really great fit kind of thing, and I can. So that's pretty cool. And then the last one is maybe, so there's one of these, maybe one day we will get along. Yeah. So this is my 14th of 14 for the Fantastic 14. It's Duncan Scott. So he's my soulmate's bestie. So there's like somebody's in my life because it's my soulmate's bestie, and that doesn't necessarily mean there's like a lot of it doesn't mean real, yeah, it's just maybe one day we'll get along. There's leave it there. So that's my Fantastic 14, which is an exercise of if we're interacting, if that were ever to come to be, the world would be a different place. And it has to include the person who came up with the list, so me, and it does.